A blast of Arctic air is on the way over the next few days, along with the potential for accumulating snow for certain areas, and there is the possibility of snow for areas of the south as we get into early next week. So we'll speak on the snow part first and then the cold part second. There'll be timestamps up throughout the entire video, especially when speaking on this change that's upcoming. We'll have different areas of the country sectioned out, so definitely utilize those timestamps. After that, we will go over today's weather across the entire lower 48, and then we'll round the video off with a Bible devotion if you want to join us for that. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. So let's start off by once again looking at this big blue and green blob over the eastern U.S. So you might be wondering, what does this mean? Well, a lot of people immediately think cold and snow, and it's not always what that means, especially when it comes to the snow part. But normally what you see on your screen does bring colder than average temperatures. But in this case, it is going to bring snow, and it is going to bring not only cold air, but Arctic cold air and the coldest air of the season. So we just got to figure out all the details up under this big blob of blue and green that you see on your screen. But this is a big trough. It's going to have energy associated with it, along with cold air that dives down behind it. So let's go on and move past this. So let's go over the snow part first. And if you're tuning in, just not remembering, well, that I mentioned that there is timestamps and you're wondering, well, I just want to hear about my certain state. Well, we're going to start off by speaking on areas of the Midwest first, the upper plains and the upper Midwest, and then we'll make our way into the Ohio Valley and then down to areas of the South, and then we'll speak on the Northeast when it comes to the snow part of this. So let's speak on this area first, and we're going to start off with tomorrow afternoon. Not a whole lot going on. And as we move forward, we get into Saturday morning, and you see the blue, which is snow, the green is rain. And if you see any kind of areas of like orange and pink show up on your screen, just think of a wintry mix. So we got some light to moderate snow breaking out across areas of the Dakotas as we're getting into Saturday, November the 8th. That's this Saturday. So over the next couple days. And then we start to get into Saturday afternoon, and still a little bit of light precipitation. I don't think this is going to be kind of a heavy moisture ordeal for this area. So even though it'll be just cold enough for certain areas to see snow, I don't think it'll be heavy snow, but we could see some light accumulations, and we'll go over that here in a second. But as we start to get into, say, Sunday morning, the 9th, maybe some lingering flurries, light areas of snow out here, especially for upper portions of Minnesota. But altogether, it doesn't look like a hefty event, early season event for you guys or anything like that. But I did want to show you guys some love. Didn't want to leave my family up here in the Dakotas hanging. If you're tuning in from that area, certainly say hey. But as far as how much snow, say, the Euro is printing out for you guys, I mean, it does have an area of a couple inches in northern areas of North Dakota, with a stripe of maybe a ½ inch to an inch here, and northeast areas of South Dakota, some dusting amounts across areas of Minnesota. And we will begin to kind of look at those National Weather Service graphics when we get a little bit closer to this over the next day or so. But if you do look at, say, the Euro ensemble with this, it pretty much matches up well with what the actual operational Euro is showing, with just a stripe of light snowfall accumulation stretching from almost the entirety of North Dakota through eastern areas of South Dakota. Show some love up here for upper areas of Minnesota. And I would say the Euro ensemble definitely shows it's a little bit more aggressive with snowfall totals for areas like northern Iowa and southern Minnesota. But when I say aggressive, I'm not talking about several inches. I'm just talking about like a ½ an inch to an inch. So some festive flakes out there, nothing crazy. You guys certainly can handle an inch of snow. We all know that, right? So let's go on and scoot it a little bit further to the east for the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region. Now, this is when things get a little more wild. And if we look at the Euro once again, and we can actually go and look at the 06Z Euro now because it's fully went through. So we got some new data, and we started off for Saturday afternoon, the 8th. So, it's just warm enough at the surface for this to be mainly rain in areas of northern Iowa, but I do think there's a possibility for a mix to snow. So you're seeing a little bit of snow showing up in areas of Iowa, but as we start to move into, say, let's back it up a little bit. This is right in the middle of the night, Saturday night into Sunday. It looks to be too warm for snow in Chicago. That could change, as you could get some lake effect snow. We'll show you that here in a second, but it's definitely cold enough for a little bit of snow up here in the upper Midwest. And there is basically a surface low kind of riding with this trough digging down out of Canada. And this has the opportunity to deepen. And as it does, we could get heavier moisture reflected to the surface. So we start to see some light blue, some darker blue showing up. This is some heavier snow in lower Michigan and areas of Wisconsin. And then you start to see the real dark blue. And there's the potential here, and this is getting into Sunday morning, for an all-out mini snowstorm for areas of lower Michigan. And, you know, some model guys was kind of teasing at this, and now more and more model runs are showing the idea of this, and now the Euro is showing it. So, you know, there's been some discussions from the National Weather Service in like Grand Rapids and lower Michigan. So they're even talking about it. They're seeing what we're seeing here. So there is the potential for a stripe of accumulating snow for areas of lower Michigan. And the lake effect snow, lake enhanced snow is going to start to get going up here in the upper Midwest. And then we start to move into Sunday afternoon. Kind of this low pressure area is going to move out. We could potentially get a hefty early season snow event for like southern Ontario. And then the rest of this is sort of energy associated with the immediate deep trough. And this is going to be that polar air that goes over the Great Lakes. This will fire up the lake effect snow machine over Lake Superior, Huron, and Lake Michigan. And here it goes. There is the potential here for a solid north to south oriented kind of snow bands to really set up. So watch out in northern Indiana. Even watch out as the position of this trough kind of comes down for maybe like a north-northeast to west-southwest band. Get my directionals mixed up here. To set up and maybe bring a little bit of a lake effect snow event areas of Chicago. Not as common, but certainly happens at least a couple times a year. And look at this banding feature. This is getting into Monday morning that starts to pivot over Chicago. We got some snow flying around Indianapolis, and that'll be an interesting little setup banding feature. We'll talk more about Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois here in a second. But I mean, we're getting all the way into Tuesday morning, the 11th, and there's still a little bit of snow kind of flying around. So what is the Euro showing? And this is the latest Euro, which is it beefed it up even more, guys. So we continue to trend to more hefty snowfall amounts. First off, you know, Wisconsin, some light totals are possible. And this is just an operational run, not an exact forecast. Not quite into that forecast range. But look at the UP of Michigan, some of your first accumulating snow of the season showing up, a few to even several inches of snow. Not everybody's going to get it. For example, looks like the eastern UP, not quite as much, but we'll start to show you some graphics with some town names, things like that here in about a day or so when the National Weather Service updates their graphics here. But look at this. You see this area of snow right here? This is more so off that low pressure that develops right before the cold air surges in. So a few to several inches of wet snow could fall in southern areas of lower Michigan. Like I said, we'll start to mention some of those town names: Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Lansing, things like that, even Detroit, when we move into the next day or so. But you see this heavy snow over Lake Michigan getting into northern Indiana. That's lake effect snow driven mainly. So, I mean, we're seeing some crazy totals with this, guys. And, just to show you the Euro Ensemble, which I knew it was going to do that. I was going to go back to the 06Z, which is not fully ran yet. And we'll go through the entirety of this run all the way through about the same timestamp. I mean, you might think, well, the operational one might be a bit of an anomaly, right? An outlier? Well, no. I mean, there is a few inch snowfall average here in lower Michigan, solid signal, a little bit of a gap in northern lower Michigan. But look in northern Indiana, and Chicago has a couple inch snowfall mean. So, very interesting stuff here. Now, let's talk about Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and, we'll probably double up on Kentucky here. But as we are starting to move into Sunday morning, there's that surface low swinging through. It looks to be, with this surface low right here, that 1,003 low, too warm for snow for Indiana and Illinois and Ohio. But the far northern edge of these states could mix with some heavy wet snow. It'll be a sharp cutoff of cold rain and a heavy wet snow somewhere near here. But as the cold air spills down, this is when you're going to have a mixture of all kinds of stuff. Not precipitation wise, but you're going to have energy associated in the atmosphere and just lake effect driven stuff, northwest flow, lake to lake connection. This is Monday morning, waking up to a festive start to your day. Come on, guys, go on and throw up that Christmas tree, right? Sunday, so you can wake up Monday, look up your Christmas tree, look at your Christmas tree, put you in a good mood, and maybe have some flakes flying around areas of the Midwest and Ohio Valley. But this is Monday morning. It's snowing in Chicago, not an exact forecast quite yet, but there it is, that north-northeast to a west-southwest oriented snow band that you don't see that often. But, you know, this is dumping some moderate to heavy snow over Chicago. You got snow over Indianapolis, you know, some light to moderate snow. And look at this band of snow over northern Kentucky. Wild stuff. And even some heavy snow over northern Kentucky, southern Ohio. So this is starting to gain some traction, and then the flow switches, and we got a pretty hefty snow band starting to lose some of that cold air over the northern half of Indiana, and then tapers off. So, you know, if we look at the latest snowfall forecast, and like I said, it's hard to say a forecast. This is just what's being modeled off the Euro, and this is what it's saying for the event off the latest 06Z. And it's very kind of gappy, right? You know, it's gapped up. You're not seeing much in this area or this area. Shows a little bit of snow over Chicago. There's the hefty amount over lower Michigan we've already talked about. But focusing in on Indiana, and, you know, this particular run dumps a couple inches of snow on Chicago, but it wants to dump a couple inches of snow on Indianapolis too. But look at northern Indiana. I'm sure you can hear it in my voice. I'm excited to talk about snow, guys. Southern Ohio. Northern Kentucky, a few inches of snow, eastern Kentucky. So, you know, if we do look at that Euro ensemble, once again, we're going to have to switch it to this, and we're going to have to probably go to back to the upper Midwest here. Come on, where is it? Do we not have the upper? There it is, right there. We're going to have to switch it to this. And there is a signal down here for snow. Okay. But let's move past this. So this is definitely what a lot of my peeps want to see. And hopefully you guys utilize the timestamps, because I know some people don't realize I have timestamps in the video and they immediately jump off like, this dude's never going to talk about the South. Well, in this video, I do have timestamps up. So then we're going to start off Sunday evening. Cold front's moving in. You know, you're going to see mainly green. And then as the cold air begins to spill into Kentucky, the southern Alps, I mean, it already starts to snow in the Smokies late Sunday night into Monday morning. And that's this Sunday night into Monday morning. Cumberland Plateau, you know, still mainly green, you know, rain. And then look at this period of heavy snow. And this is sort of the first push of energy, too. This isn't even kind of the main course, if you will. And as we are starting to get into Monday morning, it is snowing pretty good in the higher elevations of the North Carolina, Tennessee mountains, snowing in West Virginia, the favorite areas of southwestern VA. I mean, light to moderate snow. This sort of muted blue look, light blue look. This is light snow. But look as the main energy kind of pivots through associated with the trough. A band of heavy snow sets up based off what the Euro is showing in northern and central Kentucky, southern Ohio, areas of West Virginia. And then check this out. This is Monday afternoon. On November the 10th. It's not at night, it's in the afternoon hours. The warmest part of the day, 4 p.m., 3 to 4 p.m. You got snow flurries, some light snow flying around in, as far south as northern Alabama, northern Georgia, the Cumberland Plateau. Some flurries will be possible in Nashville, all the way back over to Knoxville, eastern Tennessee. Snowing, at this point, there's plenty of cold air to work with. So I really think this is when we can start to get some accumulating snow in the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. And I mean, this darker blue, that's some moderate snow. And, you know, this continues to swing through. This gets into Monday evening, a festive evening across eastern Tennessee. Some flakes still flying around in northern Alabama, northern Georgia. And listen, I'm going to tell you right off the dot. Everybody and their brothers, uncles, dogs, pet hamsters is going to tell you, we're not going to see any accumulations from this. And that's what it's not a shot at any local meteorologist in Tennessee, northern Alabama, Georgia, whatever. But listen, I have seen this happen multiple times over the last few years. And it seems like someone always at least gets enough snow to make the ground white. So I'm going to sit here and say that's bogus. Okay, the potential was there for some accumulating snow if this is the way it plays out for areas of the Cumberland Plateau, some of those higher mountain tops in northeast Alabama, northern Georgia, and certainly the mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina, Virginia into West Virginia, up into West Virginia. So there is even the possibility for some of this to break containment, deliver some flurries into the Piedmont, North Carolina foothills. Definitely. Look, it even shows some snow into central Virginia. I think it's very possible. It was such an aggressive dump of energy that's digging so far south. So speaking on these accumulations, you might look at this and, 3/10 of an inch of snow if this is the way it plays out. And I forgot we need to go and look at this. So not a whole lot different. But, 3/10, 2/10 of an inch of snow in northern Alabama, even though this is 10-to-1 ratio. I know the ground's too warm. Blah, blah, blah. We all hear about that nonstop. I get it. If it snows hard enough, it can overcome the warm grounds, guys. I'm telling you, it can. I've seen it happen multiple times. But shows a slither of accumulating snow dusting into the Cumberland Plateau, but just shows a solid look of accumulating snow for areas of the mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina into Virginia, and certainly a few inches of snow is looking likely in West Virginia. Look at Kentucky. So this is going to be one interesting event. Then the Euro Ensemble, which we're going to have to look at this a different way here. We're going to have to look at the Southeast, and we're going to have to back it up to the OOZ. And I mean, the Euro Ensemble, guys, even shows a little bit of a light signal as far south as northeast Alabama, northern Georgia, the Cumberland Plateau. Even shows a little signal into Virginia. I wouldn't call this just a weird signal either. This is all inside firmly the 5 to 6 day range or less. So this is just an aggressive trough. And there's even a little signal sort of in the Piedmont of the Carolinas for 1/10 of an inch. Now, this is probably because many members out of the 51 members of the Euro Ensemble shows the idea of some flakes breaking containment. So something is there. Now, the Northeast, what are you guys going to get? Well, there's just enough cold air still locked in place for, as we're getting into Sunday morning, this is just flat out start of snow in the Adirondacks, northern Vermont, New Hampshire. And then as a low pressure rides through, a lot of warm air, it vects through the area, probably going to go to rain. But this is an all-out winter storm up into Quebec and Ontario. Could be a pretty meaty winter storm too. And then, we have to wait because the trough's digging so aggressively to the south before the cold air oozes through. Finally, it does, and we get some lake effect action Monday into Tuesday for Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, and we could pick up some decent accumulation from this as it moves in and out. Now, how much snow off this? Let's go on and just look at the 06Z. It shows a solid band of snow that could impact, areas of, heck, even Syracuse, just north of the Finger Lakes area, a little bit of snow. Possible from Cleveland all the way up to Buffalo, a few inches showing up. But, the I-95 corridor certainly is not going to get a whole lot from this. But, we do look at that Euro Ensemble, and we'll have to switch it to this. Solid signal. We go all the way out through about this time next week. And, there is a solid signal. And some of this is kind of skewed with a couple smaller events out ahead of this. But this is a solid look for western areas of New England and the Northeast. So, like I said, before we dive into the cold air, I do want to mention we'll dive into those individual graphics from the National Weather Service that I've done over the last 2 winters, and we'll just get more up and close and personal for certain areas, right? We're going to need to do that. But as far as the cold air, guys, deep dive of cold air is going to move in. These are temperatures compared to average. So the blues and the greens you see, it's anywhere from 5 to as much as 15 degrees below average. And then you're going to see some of these sort of white purple areas show up, and this is getting into Monday morning, and then we see the Barney color show up. That's getting to 20, 25, in some cases 30 degrees below average. And this is Monday afternoon, right where we can see some of these flakes flying around pretty far south. So a big push of cold air moves in and probably moves out pretty quick. But I do think some of this cold air will linger around for the extreme eastern areas of the country, even all the way into this time next week. So as far as potential high temperatures, all right, and I'm just going to stick with the eastern U.S. here. We go into Saturday, you can see a sharp temperature gradient across the Midwest. Look at how warm it is I want you to just continue to take a look kind of at the Mid-South. 70s, even into the mountains of the Southern Alps. And then we get into Sunday, and the bottom drops out temperature-wise, a 20-degree drop. But still warm east of the Alps. You're hanging on for dear life, and then boom, there's January and November. Okay? Big push of cold air. These are high temperatures. The Cumberland Plateau, areas of the Cumberland Plateau, I mentioned that area a lot. There's a potential you won't get out the 30s. And that's almost rare for November. It is rare. It's not common at all. Well, we're going to break some records with this, especially with daily max temperatures. And then we get into Monday, Tuesday of next week, things begin to moderate, and then it warms right back up. This is a quick but potent shot of cold air. Low temperatures with this. Okay, this is Sunday morning. You can see that deep pool of cold air up here. And then bang, this is Monday morning. A hard freeze is expected. I mean, we're going to get some teens in certain areas. But, then we move into Tuesday morning. And I mean, sub-freezing temperatures all the way down into Florida. And I mean, even some really cool temperatures all the way down to South Florida. But the entire eastern U.S. is locked and into freezing temperatures, very, very cold temperatures. And it's actually colder in areas further south. I mean, low 20s for northern Alabama. What? I always joke around and call northern Alabama Montana because I swear they just have a different climate in northern Alabama. There is definitely a microclimate in areas in northeast Alabama up into the Cumberland Plateau due to just a spike in elevation. But anyways, yeah, and then we start to move into Wednesday morning. Things begin to moderate, but still a very chilly morning. So as far as today's weather, it's quiet. A little bit of flow out there, nothing crazy really going on. Big system over Nova Scotia, a little bit of a northwest flow, rain and snow kind of drifting around the northeast. Some people seeing some rain, some areas some snow, but nothing too wild going on there. Now, watches, warnings, and advisories. A lot of dense fog across the south, moisture building back in. And, one thing I did not mention is the severe weather potential for tomorrow, but I'll dive deep into that. I'll dive deeper into that as we wake up tomorrow morning and do a video, so I do apologize for not mentioning. I'll kind of mention it here, actually. But as far as thunderstorm potential, little bit here in the Midwest. Not a big deal, though. But I do want to mention tomorrow, there is a risk of severe weather across these regions. Marginal risk going from Ohio all the way down to the Gulf coastline. What's crazy is these areas are expecting severe weather. Tomorrow could see snow 48 hours later. So there is a tornado threat. Outside risk, we could have a tornado tomorrow, and then 48 hours later, it could be snowing in some of these areas. So we'll speak more on that tomorrow. Not really any kind of risk of flash flooding today, but as far as the southeast with weather, it's quiet. A little bit of moisture in the Gulf, a little bit of rain shower action in Florida. Not a big deal, though. And then we look at the northeast. Some chilly air behind this system. Some snow could be drifting around in favorite areas of Vermont, New Hampshire, northern New York State, Maine, and some festive flakes, I would call it. And then our next system is about to move in as we get into tomorrow. South Central U.S., the weather continues to be incredibly quiet. It's been very, very warm this fall. Just you guys could just not get any fall weather to save your life down there. But the North Central U.S., here comes our first system with this trough. This is going to miss to the north, be way too warm for any kind of snow. 996 flying through. This will probably kick up some winds, though, late tonight. Some rain in the UP of Michigan. And then, as we're getting into tomorrow morning, you'll start to see the signs of some changes moving in. But the western U.S., some energy flying through. Big system moves in. It'll connect into the eastern U.S., but this will just bring another rainstorm into areas of the northwest. Just not cold enough for any significant snows unless you get way up high in elevation. Temperatures, it'll be a cold one in the northeast. You guys are just locked on the cold side of this trough dig. The southeast is warming up nicely. And once again, the 80s in Texas, above average for the upper Midwest, things like that. But that's about to change dramatically. And then this is the western U.S. So let's create a timestamp and let's make this our timestamp. All right, a little bit of scripture this morning. We've done well. This is a third time this week, so we haven't gotten off track. But this morning we're in Proverbs chapter 24, verse 16. It says, "Though a righteous person falls 7 times, he will get up, but the wicked will stumble into ruin." Scripture highlights falling 7 times, which acknowledges the setbacks that will come in this life. We are called to get up every time by relying on God during these times. When you allow that reliance to overcome the situation, you realize you have been given the strength from God to get up every time you fall. The wicked, even at times when it seems as if they are succeeding, will eventually stumble and not have the foundation needed to get back up, that faith needed to get back up. So just remember that you are equipped as a believer to get back up and to every time you struggle, you've already, you got to lean on God during that time. And don't try to do it all yourself. He's there to help you. I always say this, he's like I talk to him on the way to work or way home from work, like he's, a best friend right beside me. And even though I don't physically see him, I feel his presence. So just don't try to tackle all these struggles on your own. We're called to get back up. It's a command to get back up. The struggles are going to come. And I know a lot of times with scripture, guys, and I was thinking about this morning during my quiet time, that I always kind of go back to that in scripture, the struggles in life. But I feel like it's very relatable. And I feel like anxiety, stress is just talked about so much in today's age. It's almost glorified, almost promoted in a way. It's almost like in a way that it's accepted. And in my opinion, it shouldn't be. It's going to happen, but don't allow yourself to don't give yourself an excuse to feel that way. You're going to feel that way, but you got to push it back. You got to battle through it. And, it's crazy. When I was a kid, and I know I'm not that old, I'm 34, but when I was a kid, I didn't even even when I was like 16, 17 years old, I didn't even know what the word anxiety meant. I was just being a kid, and you hear these teenagers these days talking about anxiety, using the term all the time, stress, things like that. And heck, when I was a kid and I was going through some things, and I'm not going to get into, it's part of my testimony though, but when I was a teenager, I was going through some things. And my surroundings around me and stuff like that. But, it was just life. You just rolled through it, but things are just different these days. But lean on God during those tough times, guys. And once again, as always, I'm always speaking to myself with this too. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day. Get excited about snow. Put up your Christmas tree and find some joy out there. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day, and we'll speak again tomorrow morning.